In order to make it work, you've got to believe in it yourself to begin with. I'm a presenter with BBC at the moment. I've done Sky as well over the years, ITV, I've been around.
A lot of people ask me, should I be scripting my videos or should I just be writing prompts?
I would always try and do prompts if possible. Bad feedback is not something to be discouraged because it helps you get better. If you do the work on yourself, that's where you see the magic come to light.
If there's anyone listening who's like, okay, do you know what? I want to go into presenting.
Yeah.
What tips would you give them? Hi, Gavin.
Jade, good to see you.
So good to see you. How you feeling?
I'm good actually. Yeah, a little bit frazzled as per normal, but you know, that's the default.
Just the standard London frazzle vibe, I feel like, is what I carry around with me on a daily basis.
Exactly right, yeah. The eyes have it. The eyes have it like that. And the hair has it today as well. So yeah.
No, you look great.
Thank you.
You look great. I am so excited to talk to you today. You've had quite the career in presenting, and I just know you're going to have so many valuable tips to share with myself and all the creators listening. Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yes.
I've really built you up now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, this is it. Imagine if it's rubbish from now.
Yeah. No, it won't be. I'm sure of it. So to kick us off, why don't you introduce yourself? Because a lot of people listening might not be familiar with you yet.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Jade. Yeah, I'm Gavin Ramjohn. Nice to meet you all. I'm a presenter with BBC at the moment. I've done Sky as well over the years, ITV, I've been around. I actually counted it something like 15 and a half years now in the industry. Yeah. It's been a long time. And presenting as well on air. So I started out when I was young, used to do kids TV, children's BBC, News Round, show called News Round, which was
I remember it.
Yeah. Still going as well, still going strong. It's 40 plus years now of that. So I was one of the presenters on that. Did a bit of Blue Peter as well back in those days, and loads of children's BBC shows actually. So I had a break pretty much straight from university to present. Baptism of fire. Had to learn very, very quickly, straight from the off. And then did a bit of ITV, morning shows, Sky Sports, lots of and American TV as well, actually, CBS. So I've done a lot of reporting as well as presenting. Started out as a runner though, pretty much from the ground up.
Right.
Photocopying, making teas, doing runs for people's food, etc. Very much like the lowest rung of the ladder to start out on, and then work my way up from there really. And yeah, also massively into sports, so you can probably gather with my sporting background and what have you, and maybe my tone, etc. Used to play a lot of football, played semi-pro football for a bit. Massively into mental health as well, like promoting better mental health. I've got a platform called Manzilla, which I'm really passionate about. All about men's escapism, mental health, promoting good guys. Just men to be sort of like the best versions of themselves. So that's all about me really in a sense. And I'm all about kind of, bringing the good vibes and bringing, good feelings towards kind of like anything I'm all about really.
Yeah. I love that.
Thanks.
Okay. So question, did you always know that you wanted to be a presenter, or was it more just that you wanted to be in media?
Good question. Yeah. I actually think it was probably more about wanting to be in media. It's interesting, a really interesting question that. So I've had a very kind of diverse journey to get to where I am. So I'm in my early 40s now. Not going to reveal my age, although I probably have just done. So a lot of people don't really know my age, which is a nice thing. So I suppose having the sort of babyish face look is
keep
quite
it an enigma.
Yes, this is it. Yeah, I'm going to start aging down, I think, actually, from now on, Benjamin Button style. So next year I'll be 39, and then 38 the year after that. So yeah, I actually studied to become wanted to get into finance. I wanted to get into finance, and I wanted to
different.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to be a stockbroker. I was really attracted to the sort of. The film has glamorized it, Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
I didn't want to exactly do what they do on that. That's ridiculous. But that sort of lifestyle. Nice cars, nice lifestyle, nice house, etc. And, the whole sort of background I come from, like the whole being pushed towards being a doctor, lawyer, engineer, that kind of thing was massive. It was a real thing to not do any of those careers.
Right.
And to go into TV as such or anything different was quite a job to persuade the family.
Yeah.
So for me, I wanted to go down the next best thing, which would have been finance, which obviously is a credible career. And so my first degree was in business and economics. I figured that would be a good way in, and a lot of people from my course at the time were in that industry. So people who graduated had gone into that industry. So it was all very sort of logically mapped out. I was having the talks with all the right companies, that kind of thing. And then I got a bit of work experience on BBC Wales doing randomly in a music video for Question of Sport. That video will hopefully never see the light of day.
I'm going to find it.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, I was dressed up as the Jackson 5, part of the Jackson 5.
What?
Yeah, and the celebrity guest was in the Jackson 5 with us, and we had to reenact Blame It on the Boogie.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, this is random.
If I find it, I'm going to put it in the description. Anyone
okay. Okay,
I can't promise I'm going to find it.
I'll get on the case and try to hide that now.
Yeah.
It's out there somewhere. So yeah, anyhow, I got really into that side of media randomly. I wasn't really thinking about media as a career, but from that experience, I really thought, actually, you know what, this team's really nice here. They're very, very professional. It's a very cool discipline. I quite enjoyed it. And I thought, well, maybe I can combine media and business in a way that could work in that sense. So I did an MA, a master's in international relations and politics and public relations as well. And it sort of was like a bit of a bridge to do more of the business side, but also flirt with media. Yeah. So I ended up doing looking into trying to become a sports agent, looking into becoming like a business side of, a business career within media, like looking into those sorts of things. I did a dissertation which was all about the changing relationships of media and TV and how it's all playing out. And my work got published in academia, which was random and really cool. But at the time, it was really kind of at the forefront of what the industry was doing. So Ofcom had just been formed. This is how old I am. Ofcom had just been formed.
I wanted to stop myself because I was going to go, wow.
Yeah. So this was the early 2000s. And obviously now it would be very dated, because the industry, and as we all know, changed, completely flipped. But back at that time, Ofcom was a new regulator.
Right.
And my research had looked into what Ofcom was going to do. And so that kind of got me into a lot of places, got published in academia. I was in a lot of magazines, trade magazines for the work, and networked with a lot of execs. So therefore, I was like, oh, let's try and get into some TV productions. So I got in to become a runner with a few of the production companies I'd liaised with. One of them was Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway. So I was Ant and Dec's runner for a while. So that was my first job in TV as their runner. And Dermot O'Leary's runner on one show as well.
What are they like? Just quickly.
Amazing, yeah.
Okay,
really nice guys.
Because I was be really upset if you tell me they're not nice. I'd be like, oh no.
I have a lot of not unnice stories of various people, but they are not one of them. They are amazing. Yeah, they're really good. So yeah, literally, long answer to your great question. That kind of got me the taste of it, and I built on that. And I figured that at some point I'd want to get into presenting or reporting or something to do with doing on-air work. A lot of people said at the time as well, back in the sort of early 2005 era, there weren't many brown or black faces around. Not many. There's a few, but you'd know who they were because they're so
because it was
distinct.
Such a unique thing.
Yeah, completely. So distinctive. To see black and brown faces on TV back then.
Yeah,
you'd know exactly who they were, and there wouldn't be any doubt of who these people were.
Yeah.
Whereas back then, if you were trying to get in, it would be you'd almost be ushered to try and have a go at it, but you knew that the barriers would be there because there's not many of you. So I thought I'd have a go at it, and then did a couple of show reels, sent them off to various people. Children's BBC were quite keen to see me and get me on board and have an audition. I had 3 auditions. Okay. I had a coach come and work with me because I was fresh off the block.
So was the coach on your own dime? You were like, actually, I need to get a coach.
They got me, which was really nice. And it was more a case of seeing how I would cope with the learning process, I think.
Okay.
And that learning process is very difficult.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make any bones about it. Not everyone can be a presenter. Everyone probably thinks they can be. Everyone probably sees it and thinks it's a nice, easy career, quite glamorous, can lead to this, this, and this. But the graft and the technicality behind it, if you do it properly, that's when you see the people that shine. Whereas everyone can have a go at doing it. Everyone can try it. I don't discourage that at all. But to actually properly build from the bottom up and see what the technicalities are, how you effectively design yourself to become a character. Yeah. Because it's more than just saying words. It's more than just going on camera and learning something and saying it. There's way more to it, and it involves a lot of self-work. But that takes time. You can't just click your fingers and do that overnight. That takes months, years of work. You know. So that got me into the presenting really, and I had to learn a lot very, very quickly. Yeah.
There was a couple of things that you mentioned. No, I love that. It was so interesting. And there was a couple of things that you mentioned that I just want to dive deeper into. First of all, you mentioned that, you had to go through a process to persuade your parents that this was a good, viable path for you. And I think a lot of people listening can relate to that in some way because even though content creation is becoming so popular, a lot of us still have to do the job of convincing friends, family, whoever it is, actually, this is a viable career and I can make this work. Yeah. So talk to me about what that was like for you.
Yeah, that I can imagine actually that being, content creation being the newer sort of end of media these days and what it means to be, in it and have a career in it. I can imagine it being extremely difficult to convince someone from a traditional background, that it's actually something you can make money from, because there's no logical way of doing it, is there? There's like, and it's the same with how I got in as well. There's no logical way how you get in.
Yeah.
You get in from working really hard, impressing people with your attitude, and then making the most of your opportunities and taking risks where it's appropriate. But I think in anyone who is maybe sort of struggling to convince a, guardian or parent or whatever, somebody, friends as well. Friends can be very skeptical.
Yeah.
I think it's something that's really interesting, because you can often convince yourself before you convince other people. And I think that is probably the way to do it, because, in order to make it work, you've got to believe in it yourself to begin with.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe in it yourself to begin with, then you're not going to make it work for other people. And that's half the battle, isn't it? Convincing yourself, making it work for yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one. Like, I suppose if you're trying to make money from it, it probably is even harder, because the first parts of it won't be making you any money, right? So it's keeping that hustle going and keeping that passion burning to make it, one, convincing for yourself, but two, seeing how it's working in the ether, in the environment, for other people to see and take note that you're actually doing something worthwhile.
Yeah, completely. It's almost like believe in yourself so much that it will be hard for someone else not to as well.
Yeah.
It becomes a bit infectious.
Yeah.
No, that's such a good point.
No, it's interesting, like thinking about how to sell it to them, how to sell it to the skeptical lot.
Yeah.
It's like, there isn't everything you say and do won't sell it to them. I know how it is. The barrier is fully down. Fort Knox is like well and truly in place. You're not getting that career idea past anyone. I know how it is. But the only thing you can do is just, you have to believe in yourself. You have to. Because there were times when I thought, oh, what if this doesn't work out? Oh, what if this isn't for me? What if I don't get anyone employ me, or if I don't get anything that's fruitful? I remember at the time as well, I was seeing friends of mine on graduate schemes earning decent money, earning their way in London.
Yeah.
And I was still doing, I'll level with you. Like, I was working 3 or 4 different jobs just to make the TV work.
Yeah.
The runner work, because it was not being paid very well at all. It was not, it still is to this day. It's really difficult to get a well-paid entry-level job in media, especially in TV. So I was working in like Ted Baker as a retail assistant. I was working in, temp jobs, doing work for the Alzheimer's Society, admin stuff, runner work for post-production studios, just hustling. And it was really difficult. And people see that. And if it's part of a phase of your life, I think it's really interesting, because it shows that you've worked from the ground up.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will see it and they'll think, oh, he or she's not doing anything worthwhile. They're wasting their time.
Yeah.
So hard.
Yeah. It's also one of those things where when you, as you said, when you look back on it, it's kind of like this character building kind of exercise. And when you explain to people, this is where I started, it could be really motivating. But when you're in it, is when it's hard, which is the same for so many things.
Yeah.
When you look back at it, it's always, everything, hindsight is always 20/20. When you look back at things through rose tinted glasses, when you're in it is when it's actually quite tricky.
Yeah.
But, you made it work, which is incredibly impressive. So I would love to talk a bit about presenting, camera confidence, because as you mentioned, you had a coach, and that was my biggest questions for you was, did you have a coach, and like, what did they teach you? This to me is quite like an enigma that because I've never had coaching for public speaking or anything before, but it is something that I want to look into. So maybe for selfish reasons, I would love to know what that experience was like for you. Yeah,
it was extremely, at the time as well, I remember it very well, like it was extremely sort of uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is probably the way I'd describe it. I mean, not in the sense that it was socially strange. Socially it was great, but it's just when you are thrown into difficult situations and taught how to react and cope.
Yeah.
It's because you're obviously on camera and you're being examined, you're being critiqued. Feedback is direct. It's quite like, it makes you feel really self-conscious.
Yeah.
And as soon as that self-consciousness goes, that's when you see the changes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen straight away.
Yeah.
You've got to build, get broken down, build, get broken down, build, get broken down, until all those things are like completely on the floor in an absolute mess.
Yeah.
It's the only time you can really figure out how to rebuild again.
Yeah.
So that happens every single time in order to get better.
Yeah.
And, there's little tweaks you can do to feel like more like yourself, and two, to be better in terms of presentation. It's really interesting about like voice work and like how you react when you're on camera and how you express yourself facially, non-verbally. These little things are really important, but it's only until you're being coached and when you're being broken down that you realize what happens and what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's so hard to like just say to somebody off the bat, like without having gone through their critique, through several times. To actually say what it is they need to improve on. On the surface, you can probably say this, or this, but the reality is it goes a lot deeper. And it's down to how you are as a person. I really believe that. If you're an anxious person, you can often be sort of quite anxious in your presenting. If you're a calm person, sometimes it's not necessarily good for energy. It's difficult. There's ways you need to harness and nurture your strengths and weaknesses.
So I guess a big part of it is understanding the type of person you are and how you show up on camera, because then I guess that would help you identify the areas that you might need to work on.
100%. I think what the coach or good coaching will do, there's a lot of places out there that will offer presenter coaching, public speaking coaching. Not all of them are legit. Some are very good. So it's a very mixed bag about what's out there. But I think, doing the work yourself through potentially like therapy or through life coaching is a really, really good starting point, I think.
That's so I never even thought about that before, but it makes complete sense. Sometimes we approach things, well, at least I do, from a practical lens too much. So sometimes I'll be like, it's okay, I just need to learn how to read a script without thinking, okay, just take a step back here and actually figure out what's going on behind the scenes. I'm just like straight on the output. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. The funny thing is when you say read a script, like obviously there is script, but sometimes when you're saying those words, it should feel like it's normal. Like it's your voice in this room now saying that.
Is such an impressive skill that people have. Because I don't script my videos. Like as you can tell, I'm not reading from a script now. And the first time I had to read from a script was for a YouTube campaign I did last year, and it was in a full studio, and we had like 8 people dialing in from America in the middle of the night, and there was like 8 more people in the studio, and there were several cameras, and I was like, oh my God, this is a big deal. And then there was the teleprompter over the camera, and it threw me because I'm so used to speaking directly to a lens. I never thought I'd get to the point where that is comfortable for me. But my eyes kept on trying to find the lens because it feels so weird just to read words and have them not look at one specific thing and also have them come off like you're having a genuine conversation. And then you get feedback and it's like, great, can you just say it again, but with this inflection or as if you feel this way? And I'm like, this is like acting. This is so hard.
I know exactly what you mean. It's, and that is to a degree, that is what it's like. It is a bit like acting. You're acting out yourself. This is the thing. So I've had a bit of acting training just off my own bat, this is just to see what the difference would be like. And I did actually randomly have a couple of auditions for things, which is why it prompted me to try and do it. But it's interesting with acting, you are a completely different person. You've got to transport yourself into a completely different character. You've got to embody that character. You've got to learn that character. The character work is where the magic comes from. And you see the best actors, they've really done the work. It's the same with presenting. Like if you do the work on yourself, that's where you see the magic come to light. And that voice and that inflection, all those little things, you'll be able to harness that better when you've done the work yourself. But to be honest with you, that auto cue work is a whole different dimension of training. That auto cue work and like studio anchoring, links, etc. That is so links as in like you're linking from one element to another. Say like we're doing a show now, you're doing a link to another thing. It's different mindsets. You've got to be different like in every scenario. You might be having a fun chat with me now, and then you might go to something serious. It's as if you're doing a studio show, something serious down the line with somebody else, and you've got to flip that switch like that. And the gear change is really interesting because you can't just go from like happy to sad 100 miles an hour. You've got to transition it. So it's like your brain's got to compute what's coming next, but you're also still chatting to me. There's loads of different elements to presenting an auto cue.
Very difficult.
You get used to it. The more you do it, and the more you get broken down. This is the thing. Bad feedback is not something to be discouraged. I actually actively seek it out where I can because it helps you get better. If you're using the right coaches, like you will get better from that. And listening to yourself back. Watching yourself back. Most important things you can do. Absolutely right.
I agree. There was even, and I'm sure some people could relate to this, because obviously a lot of people listening are creators, and we have the absolute privilege of, not doing things live a lot of the time. So we can actually like go through it and edit different parts. And if I mess something up, I can just say it again, which a lot of people don't realize that a lot of creators do. Sometimes people will message me, be like, I'm really struggling because I can't get it right in one take. And I'm like, you're trying to film an entire YouTube video in one take. Like, I don't do that. I just keep on redoing things until I feel like I've got it right. Yeah. So I know for a lot of creators, one of the things that we do struggle with is how do we let our kind of personality shine when we're filming? Even if we've got the privilege of going back through things and editing them, sometimes we're focusing so hard on the message that we're trying to deliver that it becomes quite stale. Do you have any tips for anyone who feels like they're experiencing that right now?
If they're feeling like it's stale, as in like they're just sort of going through the motions with it, or I think you got to try and remember why you're doing it. I'm flirting with YouTube as well, and sometimes I think to myself like, oh, I'm just dialing this in. You know, I'm not actually, this isn't the real me. Like, why am I doing this? So I might actually take a break and then rethink the whole angle, which is kind of like counterintuitive, but I think it works. Because if you're forcing it, whilst yes, you're on deadlines, yes, you've got like, you might have a schedule to meet with your uploads, etc. Yeah. But if it's not working on that particular moment, then come back to it and re-angle it, reword it, do something different. That's what I would suggest. Yeah. I'm not saying it's the answer, but you may try and get it done and then push it out. And then think to yourself, it wasn't as good as I'd like it to have been, and that's fine. That's fine. You've exceeded a deadline in you've met a deadline in your head, and you've achieved that. Great. But then if you're not feeling it, if it's not working for you, then something needs to change in the process. What that is, I'm not sure. Whether it's the camera angle, whether it's what you're wearing, whether it's the environment you're in, whether it's the content of your words. Yeah. It could be something to do with that. I find that often if I just change the dynamic up, I feel much better for it. Or if I do it later on in the day, if I do it first thing when I get up, depending on what it is I'm trying to get done. I often find the time of the day and the angle is the thing that stops me from like, you know, making it sort of come to fruition. Yeah. I always find like changing some element of it can help.
That's really, really good advice. This morning I was filming 2 YouTube videos. So I normally like, if I know I'm going to be filming something, I just film the whole day. Yeah. So I filmed 2 YouTube videos, and the first one I started twice. It was 3 times. And by the time I was ready to do the last take what actually worked, it was because I'd gone back to my notes and I was like, let's rejig this. Okay. It's not working. So it was the exact thing that you're talking about. I tried it twice and I was like, this isn't working. Something's got to give. Something's got to change. I reviewed my notes, moved some. It was literally just like I just put different talking points in paragraphs. I just restructured them and I was like, cool, this feels better now, you know? Yeah. And that actually brings me on to another point, which you may or may not have a strong opinion on, but a lot of people ask me, should I be scripting my videos or should I just be writing prompts? Because I always say that I do prompts. Yeah. That is, as I mentioned, it's what makes me feel like it allows me to talk freely and my personality to come out. When I script, because I'm not trained in it, I struggle to have the same kind of emotion as, you know, as when I'm just speaking. So what's your thoughts on that?
Scripting or prompts, you mean? Prompts. Yeah. I think I would always try and do prompts if possible in terms of being more natural. The scripting side of things, it's I think personally you have to be very far down the line with your comfort level of how you are on screen with that, and also your voice too, because like your example of the auto cue when you're sort of reading or trying to focus to read it and it becomes a bit more of a task to read it, let alone say it. Yeah. I would suggest that after a while, because then you can stumble on a word as well. If a word's out of place or if something's not quite what you think it is, that can often trip you up. And then if that happens, it takes a bit of process to get back on track again. Whereas if you're prompting yourself with just bullet points and you know the subject, your knowledge is there, that's going to come across way better than anything that's purely scripted. So I'll always say prompts are better than scripting. However, some people, they may get lost if they've only got a prompt and they don't know what's coming next. So they're not that comfortable in the knowledge or the subject matter. Therefore, scripting would help them out better, but then it maybe is less natural. So it's a two-way street. You've got to balance it. I think if you're knowledgeable about the subject, if you're really passionate about it, you're experienced in it, you are really keen to show people like, you know, your energy on camera with it, then I'd prompt all the time.
You make
all the time.
Such a good point there, because I would, and that leads me on to something else I was thinking is, I would say, if you are creating content about one specific topic, so you've picked a niche and you find it difficult to freely speak about it, then I would probably think maybe rethink the niche. Yeah. Because it sounds like maybe it's different if it's one thing you're referring to again. Yeah. But if it's the main topic of your content and you feel like it's difficult for you to freely speak about it, it's probably going to cause you some problems further down the line.
I agree with you. You know? I fully agree with you. I actually think, I mean, you could probably try scripting something. For example, if I was to try and do something on finance, finance. It's not necessarily, I mean, obviously I've got a degree in that side of things with it, but it's not my specialist, not my niche. So if I was to talk about something like really detailed within that, I would need to script something because it's not my...
And you want to make sure you got it right.
Yeah, it's got to be right. It's got to be, you know, you got to sound authoritative on it. I could easily script something. I could get away with it because I'm experienced. I've done this for 15 plus years. But if you're doing that on the regular, and if you're really having to work hard to get that script together, think of the work you're putting in to make something you're not that knowledgeable on sound passable.
Yeah.
Like it's going to take away a lot of your passion and your energy.
Yeah.
So if you've got something that you really love, you're really into, you don't need to think about it.
Yeah.
You can just prompt that, bang it out.
Yeah.
There we go. Job's done. And if you wanted to script something even more detailed, you'd smash that too, but it'd take you less effort.
Yeah.
It's the path of least resistance.
Yeah, for sure. And I always think if anyone's listening thinking, oh, but I don't have another alternative, you do.
Yeah.
There's always something else that you're more passionate about for some reason that you've ignored because you think it's not interesting for whatever reason. There will always be something else that you're more passionate about. And there will always be a group of people who are also passionate about it.
Agreed.
Like there's a lot of people out there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. I think people are very obsessed with the niche and obsessed with what it is they should do. And is that the only thing they should do? I just think if you enjoy talking about a subject, go for it. The rest will hopefully work itself out. I'm no expert, but just from a presenting point of view, if you're passionate about something, if you love the subject, and if you want to, you know, expound that knowledge onto other people where they can get your passion for it, then just go for it. You know, it's easy for me to say because I'm in an area where I've been, one, presenting for so long, and two, fairly skilled and sort of far down the line with kind of my career in that sense. But I think if you're starting out, it's very easy to get discouraged, isn't it? Especially when you realize the amount of work that's involved in it. But if you've already got your niche and your passion and you're determined, there shouldn't be any barriers.
Yes, I agree. I very much agree. So if there's anyone listening who's like, okay, do you know what? I want to go into presenting. I want to be on TV. A lot of creators see that as a path, which I'm trying to think, is that a common path that people take? Because I see a lot of like creators who do presenting gigs like online. So I guess maybe that is like a path that a lot of people see as one that could be one for them. What tips would you give them?
I think in terms of like transitioning to do more presenting online, it's very, you mean like for different brands or for
different brands?
Different
we actually once had Giselle, who's a good friend of mine who works for Channel 4. And Channel 4 do a lot of stuff with creators. Yeah,
they do.
That type of work. I know a lot of creators would love to go down that road.
Yeah, no, absolutely. BBC are doing a lot of that as well now. And I think Sky are too, actually. I think all of them are. Everybody.
Oh, this is great news for everyone listening, because it means there's going to be more opportunities.
100%. I mean, you know, it's a new area which the traditional broadcasters are very keen to utilize and exploit. So there are massive opportunities like that with these various broadcasters, production companies. I don't know off the top of my head what is happening commissioning wise,
of course,
but there are things that are going on always, absolutely always, especially if you've got an audience that's younger, particularly diverse, is really into you as a personality. And if you're somebody that would fit into the pile effectively, would fit in with the family, you know, if you've got no extremist views, for example, or whatever, if you're like, you know, very like sort of, you know, safe for them, then I say there's no barrier for that at all. I would suggest working on your own niche, your presentation craft, show that you can maybe do a show that you would like to do. Maybe have like a show reel put together, host that on a channel or a platform somewhere, and maybe like throw out a few emails to people, producers ideally, to say, are there any opportunities within this or this? I'm really keen to do more presenting. This is my reel. This is what I can do. Here we go. This is just in case you were potentially thinking about it. Don't necessarily go in saying like, I want to present this, and this. I think it's always a good way to plant the seed and then build from there. So if anybody is keen to try and do more presenting, that's the way I would suggest to do it. Showcase a bit of a show reel. A show reel is really important because they will always want to see a show reel, whether that is presenting to camera, like out and about, or in a studio, or, you know, in your environment where you're currently doing your content. Anything that showcases you as your personality. If you're interviewing people, even better, great. But if not, then just get as much together as possible of you being you on camera, and then get it out to people where you think commissioning may be possible. But sometimes people may come to you as well. If you're doing well enough on your own platforms, the outreach is much better now. The scouting, if you like, is much more profound. So you are more likely to get discovered from that perspective if you're just doing your thing.
Amazing. Okay, right. Well, before we go, I do want to talk to you about Manzilla.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a bit more about this platform that you built?
Yeah, so Manzilla, it's a passion project of mine. It's all about helping guys become better versions of themselves. It's all about promoting honest, decent, hardworking guys who maybe are struggling in the current environment with how it's changing. Change is a huge issue, I think, for guys, particularly of my generation, early 40s and late 30s, and younger as well, actually. Also promoting better mental health. Mental health within men, as we all know now, is such an issue. It's sort of mainstream now, but I think that the way that it's talked about is sort of like quite surface level. I think digging deeper and getting into the real like trauma-led things that men have issues, opening up about is something I'm really keen to try and get into.
Yeah.
And then promote escapism as well. Promoting escapism is really big because getting away from the norm, from the grind, from the hustle culture that we're all in effectively is so important, because escapism, going to the cinema last night, went to see Beekeeper. That is escapism for me, although it's quite an intense film. It's a brilliant film, but I loved it. It is escapism. So things like that, little things, spa days, like going out and exercising, things like that. It's escapism. Anything that gets you out of the bubble of your head. I'm all about that. And I do news for my website for it at man-zilla.com. And I got a podcast, the Manzilla Men's Podcast, which I host and have various guests on. So it'd be great if anyone can listen to that or watch any of the videos or read.
All below.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so that's for me is like my big passion project ongoing, to be honest. It will never change within me. It'll always be something I'm really into. And I just feel like we're at the start of hopefully something bigger when it comes to discussion within men. Because I just look at some of the ways that women discuss things and talk about issues, and we're still light years behind. So I'm hoping to try and tackle some of that with it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to change anyone's thinking, not trying to change anybody's like mindset. I'm not trying to, tell people how to be at all. It's just promoting different ways of discussing things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks.
I love hearing you talk about it because you could tell you're like super passionate about it.
Thank you.
And also it's so amazing that you've built something that gives you so much purpose.
Thank you. Yeah.
Alongside having such a great career,
Thank you. Yeah. It's very much like something that is always going to be ongoing within me.
Yeah.
It's different to the day job. In a sense, it utilizes the skills of the day job, but it's different because it's almost like my outlet for what I want to do with life.
Yeah.
And it feels like it feels very like sort of, I don't know, get quite sort of like emotional about it. Yeah. Because it just feels like it's just right in a sense.
Yeah.
And not many people do it, in terms of like opening up and discussing. And it's just, for me, if I can try and help with that, it's, I've been privy to people who've been affected by various things in that dynamic. And it's just very, it just means a lot, basically. It just means a lot. Yeah, so that's kind of why I chose to do it. And it's hopefully something I can try and build. It's early stages. So yeah, just gradually, bit by bit. That's the thing. I was going to ask you as well about how to, not how to, but like, how you effectively build something like that. It's something you just have to, I guess, grow with and just go with, really, in a sense. Yeah,
it's something to go with. There's sometimes you can do things which can give you more power over its growth. And I'm always, when you're starting something brand new, especially the way social media works at the minute, I'm always in favor of like the more manual tactics you can do. So things like collaborating is one of the biggest things that you could do that really helped me out when I first started this podcast channel, and being really specific with driving reach to it from existing channels you have.
Yeah.
So you probably have a lot of connections out there, like leveraging them, like the same way I'm going to be mentioning all of your links in the show notes.
Yeah.
Like, reach out to people who have a bit of an audience and see if there's something of value you can give them. Yeah. And in return, they can help spread the word for you. Like that's the best thing in the early stages for sure. Right. Because then you'll get momentum for that. And once you've started to get a bit of a following, everything else becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
But at the start, you've got to be really like aggressive with it.
Yeah, right. Gotcha.
You've got to really be manual and just kind of take it into your own hands.
Gotcha. Brilliant. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thank you.
No, thank you. Nice one. Brilliant.
Thanks so much, Gavin. And I'll leave all your links below so everyone can find out more about both yourself and Manzilla.
Thanks, Jade. Much appreciated. Thank you.